Hey, what's up everybody? It's Ned Bellavance, Ned1313 on Twitter, and welcome to the Daily Check-In for July 23rd, 2020. You may notice I am trying out a new microphone. I got a lav mic in the mail about a week ago. I've been messing around with it, and I thought I would try it on this live stream. It gives me an opportunity to not have this big, Shure mic sitting in front of me, which, I'm trying to get more personal with you. I want to get closer to you, and you can get closer to me. I don't know if that's weird or not. Maybe skip that if that's weird. Anyway, welcome to Daily Check-In. Today is Thursday, so it's Thursdays on the Edge. And today's topic is, I watched a YouTube video that was a panel that Keith Townsend, the CTO Advisor, did with a bunch of luminaries in the world of Edge. And I'll definitely include a link down in the description to that. It was a really interesting panel. It brought up a lot of interesting points when it comes to the Edge, and I had some thoughts about it. Hi, Robert. Nice to see you on the stream. So I wanted to just kind of share those thoughts, but before I do that, housekeeping item. We just published a new episode of Day 2 Cloud yesterday, and I absolutely love this episode. It's a conversation with Sam Erskine. He is a Microsoft MVP and a cloud I don't remember his full title, but basically he helps companies make the migration to the cloud for a big consulting group, and he's just an awesome human being, and we had a great discussion about developing your career and stuff like that. So I'm going to include a link down in the description for that as well, because it was a really good conversation. Highly recommend it. Sam's just a great guy. Before we get into the topic, let's check in. How are you? How are things going? We made it to Thursday. Some people call it Thirsty Thursday. I've heard that before. I'm absolutely planning to have a beer later. I certainly need it. I'm doing load testing. Well, not even load. I'm doing performance testing for a couple different clouds for one specific .NET Core application, and it has been very stressful, but also very interesting. So I'm enjoying doing that, and that's kind of been taking up all my brain cycles at the moment. Anyway, let's talk about the Edge. So what they wanted to talk about was sort of the relationship between the cloud and the Edge. And of course, no Edge conversation can start without first trying to redefine the Edge, because everybody has their own opinion. And there was definitely some interesting back and forth about how to define and think about Edge. And I want to pull out a couple themes here. Some people, one person on the panel, she proposed, I think her name was Tina, she proposed that Edge is an architecture. And another woman on the panel, Jo, she was kind of saying that Edge is a platform. And so there was a little back and forth about that. And then there was also the thought that Edge could be a marketplace. And then there's also the thought that Edge could be a continuum. So a lot of different ideas being thrown around there. And I think everybody's kind of right, because Edge, if I want to encapsulate what I think of Edge, is I think of it as an ecosystem. So it is an architecture. It is a platform. It is a marketplace, because all of those things are part of a larger ecosystem. And if we look at the model of cloud, because I think cloud really informs Edge in terms of the fact that everybody has an opinion about what cloud is. That's just what do you call cloud? And at a certain point, we stopped having that conversation, because you can sort of grab from the context of the conversation what definition of cloud they're using. So if we're talking about cloud as an architecture, it's probably because we're having a conversation about architecture. If we're talking about cloud as a marketplace, it's probably because we're talking about SaaS offerings and the marketplace of SaaS within cloud. Edge is going to be the same thing. Edge is going to be an architecture. It's a way of thinking about, how do I bring my data and applications closer to the end user, closer to the device, closer to where decisions are being made and things need to happen. That's an architectural conversation. And if I can't put it right next to the device, can I put it on a gateway that's very close to the device? Can I put it in a regional edge access point that is still very close? And as I move it further away from that device and closer to the edge, now I'm moving along a spectrum. So now we have our spectrum, right? We've got our architecture and our spectrum, but also a platform. Now, the platform thing is interesting because there's multiple different platforms to think of when it comes to Edge. There's the hardware, you can say the hardware, or even the physical location platform where you're putting your devices or compute. There's the hardware platform that sits on top of that. So what type of servers? Are we talking about ARM processors? Are we talking about x86? Are we talking about full-blown servers or tiny little Raspberry Pi kind of things? And then there's the layer above that, which is the operating system and the orchestrator that you use to deploy applications, and then there's the platform the applications actually run on, which could be something like Node.js. So there's all these different platforms within the broader Edge platform, and the way that we're going to get this mass adoption, if we're thinking about Edge also as a marketplace, if we're thinking about it in terms of a marketplace, the way that you get mass adoption of a marketplace is by having standardized platforms underneath that application developers can write to and consumers can consume. And if you think of it in that regard, okay, what I need to do is create a sort of ubiquitous one or two platforms on which these applications can be made available. What do we have that's similar to that today? Well, we have AWS and Azure if we're talking about cloud. And yes, there's Google too. But so you basically have two or three big platforms out there that you can develop against if you're trying to create an offering. But we also have, at the mobile end of things, we have basically Android and iOS. You now have two operating systems that developers can develop against, and they've made tools that you can develop one app and have it, be compiled for those two different platforms. So you really have two standardized platforms, and you could also say at the desktop level you've got Windows, Linux, and Mac. And Mac and Linux are close. They're like kissing cousins. I think actually Mac is based off of FreeBSD from back in the day, but they both feel very Linux-like, and then you have Windows. So if you're developing applications, you're probably going to target Windows and Mac, and then eventually Linux. In the same respect, you're going to have something like that for Edge. And it might not be the same for every Edge use case. You might have a marketplace that's associated with autonomous driving and autonomous vehicles and those types of things. And that is a marketplace in and of itself. And then you have a separate marketplace that's about gaming and mobile gaming and Edge applications for gaming and a platform for that. So it doesn't have to be the same platform for all of them. What you really want, and I think I talked about this in a previous video, I'll see if I can dig it up, is you want this idea of a narrow, I think it's called like a narrow waist. And you need at least one thing that's standardized enough that you can build platforms on top of that. Ooh, I'm getting some skip frames. It's probably because something else is running in the background. Oh no, what is killing my CPU? Oh dear, what could it be? It's probably my backup that runs at noon. So hopefully not too bad. It looks like it's spiked back down. Anyway, you need something in that middle category that enables you to develop above that category and develop below that category. And I think that's something that still needs to be figured out what that thing is going to be. Oh, Visual Studio is taking up, well, I'm just going to close Visual Studio because that does not need to be open at the moment. All right, sorry. If we want that narrow waist to exist, or that narrow portion to exist, it's going to be something like Kubernetes that provides, here's a platform you can deploy applications above, so you can build whatever you want above here, and it's abstracting below what's happening in here, and you can just develop at this one thing. That can be the common carrier across all of it. I think Kubernetes is probably going to be the thing that does it. Not absolutely certain of it. There could be something that rolls along, but right now, that seems to be a very popular platform for making applications portable across cloud, and I think it's also going to be a very popular platform for making applications accessible for the Edge. And Rob Hirschfeld, who was also on the panel, basically said, is Kubernetes the absolute right solution? Probably not for the Edge, but it's the thing that we're training people to use now. And if you have something that you know how to use, you're going to look for places to use it. And since the Edge is an imminent opportunity, you're going to end up using Kubernetes for the edge. So those are my thoughts about the panel. Again, it was a great panel. I highly recommend watching it. I watched it I didn't watch it. I listened to the audio, and that was perfectly fine. So if you get the opportunity, absolutely watch that video and then come back and look at this and then share your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Until next time, tomorrow's Friday, so it'll be all about HashiCorp Vault and the certification.